Red Bull's 2024 lineup is all but certain, even though both of its drivers are under a contract, and I know you already realise which one I'm talking about when it comes to being replaced. Helmut Marko's recent comments sparked even more debate about Perez's future in the team, and although the 33-year-old has been backed down by Christian Horner to actually stay in the team in the next season and maybe have to fight for a seat from 2025 onwards, the recent slump in performance is telling Red Bull to go in another direction. So, are we currently seeing the last of Perez? And if so, is Ricciardo going to have a legitimate shot at the Red Bull seat as early as 5 races from now on? It goes without saying that Daniel Ricciardo being brought back in F1 has been one of the most pleasant moves that Red Bull has made in the past couple of years, and they've found it hard to be the likeable team in this period as well. However, with Ricciardo turning down opportunities in Haas and Williams in the previous years due to the fact that they weren't as competitive as he would have wanted them for his liking, it goes to show that he has a backup plan in his mind while accepting the role in the least competitive car on the grid, AlphaTauri. And although that role was supposed to be fulfilled in 2025, it seems like we're going to see the Honey Badger reunited with Verstappen as early as 2024. The current situation in Red Bull for Perez is not very good, and the Mexican driver has failed to perform at the level expected from the team. He's missed out on many Q3 opportunities, involving the 5-race streak that started from the Miami GP, where he made it onto the podium only once in Austria, and he's put second place in the Drivers' Championship in huge jeopardy. This is something that even Horner cannot hide. It's quite a disappointment from Perez, and after the latest race in Qatar, where he had luck to see the safety car after turn 1 in lap 1 and get behind the pack in no time, and still barely finished into the points in P10 after having 2 5-second penalties for breaching the track limits. The team principal of Red Bull has made it clear as to what the goal for Perez would be in the remainder of 2023. Elaborating on this matter, Horner went on to say, "I think we really need to sit down with Checo because we know what he's capable of, and he's not hitting that form at the moment. We desperately need him to find that form to keep this second place in the championship. It was frustrating that he's only come out of the weekend with 1 point. Even starting from the back of the grid, I think there was an opportunity to score heavily or decently. The most important thing for us is winning both the championships, and we've done that. So what's the next best thing after that? It would have to be both your drivers first and second. You can see Mercedes have a pair, McLaren have a pair, and Ferrari have a pair that are quite tight between the respective drivers. We had that in the earlier point of the year, but as the season's gone on, we've become more variant. We just need to get Checo back to the best form he's capable of." Now, this is more or less a direct threat to Perez's seat simply because he's been given an ultimatum. You either finish second in the Drivers' Championship, or you don't get to live another day in Red Bull. Not that I blame the team, quite the contrary. They have a driver who is single-handedly leading the Constructors' Championship with a 100+ point difference compared to the second team in Mercedes. And to have the other one struggling to keep the second place in the Drivers' Championship and having only a 30-point difference to Hamilton is definitely not a good look for the team. Unlike last year, Perez has had more or less a clean way to fight for decent points because Verstappen has sailed across very early in the season, and the RB19 has turned out to be an even more dominant outlet compared to the RB18, as there was only one race that was not won by the Austrian team, the Singapore GP. Other than that, it's been a walk in the park for the Bulls, and when I say the Bulls, I mean Verstappen in general, because for some reason, Perez has not been able to live up to the expectations of the team or himself. It may have to do something that Perez's father, Antonio, went on to talk about, as the veteran's father has implied that there is only so much his son can do in a team that revolves around Verstappen and is building the car around his preference. This has been debunked quickly by drivers like Norris, who said that it's impossible to build a car around a driver, but it's the fact that a driver is more capable of adapting to a certain driving style compared to another. Be that as it may, Perez has gone from a secure driver who was always ready to step up for the team to an unreliable driver who is not even making it into Q3. And the only reason the difference between him and Hamilton still sits at 30 points is the turn 1 accident between Hamilton and Russell in Qatar. Otherwise, Perez would have been under much greater pressure. And even with such circumstances, Perez's average grid position is still worse compared to Hamilton and Alonso, who are also not that far away from P2, but considering the recent slump in his performance, he's not perceived as a real threat for the fight with Perez and Hamilton. This may be one of the reasons why Helmut Marko has gone on to slam Perez once more. And when talking about his future in the team, the Austrian said that the veteran driver desperately needs a change of environment in order to discover his true form, as it has been massively overshadowed by Verstappen's dominance. Elaborating on this matter, Marko said, "We must not forget I brought Perez into the team back then. But that's simply the fate with Verstappen that he's suffering now. That was already the case with Gasly." From that point of view, Berger's statement is the right one. Perez needs a change of climate and team. Now we'll see how the next two races in USA and Mexico go, but the team and he are aware that he is in a crisis. Furthermore, Marko said that he doesn't want to talk about Perez's future before the Mexican GP is over, implying that if there are some changes to it, they'll be announced after his home GP due to respect for the veteran driver. And if a replacement is well on its way, we already know who's rubbing his hands happily at home: Daniel Ricciardo. The Honey Badger has one clear goal ahead of himself: to retire in Red Bull. And the fact that he isn't driven by championships as well as competing with his teammate goes to show that he would be the perfect number 2 driver who would constantly finish on the podium if given the right car. Obviously, Red Bull would have a much easier mission in pursuing Ricciardo to obey team orders than Perez after what happened in Brazil last year, and this would even make it easier on Red Bull to find a solution for their remaining driver, Liam Lawson, who has shown so much potential in just 5 races. If Ricciardo is bound for the Red Bull seat as early as 2024, then the AlphaTauri seat remains empty, and what better driver to prepare for his future F1 endeavour than Liam Lawson? He's shown that he can compete with Yuki Tsunoda on equal matters, and furthermore, he still stands as the highest finishing AlphaTauri driver, scoring P9 in Singapore in his first career try. Now, Red Bull has thrown some hints about a potential Daniel Ricciardo comeback, such as them celebrating that Spa will remain on the calendar until 2025, and posting the photo of Verstappen and Ricciardo sitting at the Eau Rouge, one that was cut from a video on which both of them dance and have a great time together. While it's being described as nonsense, Red Bull's PR team should have known better to not post such sensitive pictures in moments when the future of their already signed driver for 2024 remains uncertain. Be that as it may, Perez will have a lot of trouble on his hands in the remainder of the season, especially now that he's facing a lot of sprint events, 3 to be precise, and all of them have the potential to actually shed the difference between him and Hamilton, because Perez hasn't really been quite popular with his performance during the sprint race event. So, do you think that there is a legitimate chance Perez will lose the battle to Hamilton, one that is definitely not comparable with the 2022 battle with Leclerc for P2? And if so, do you think that this will be the last drop in the glass for Red Bull to replace Perez with Ricciardo from 2024 onwards? Let us know in the comments down below.